Good morning. It's 8:30 and I'm calling the August 8th, 2024 Clay County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll offer a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Next up is employee recognitions, and we got a good crew today. Okay, Quinn, we'll bring you and yours up first. Hell, we've got 2 of yours, maybe 3.
Four.
Yep, 4.
Now we
Okay.
can start.
Aww.
Holly, Denise. First up, and we've got Quinn Agger here today, and we have Denise Dyer, Social Services, 15 years, and Holly Warner.
So Denise has been with our social services department for 15 years now, and during that 15 years, she has been a disability services case manager, so she's authorizing our Minnesota Medicaid waiver programs. There's so many things that stand out in Denise's work, so just to highlight a few, her work is always person-centered. She's thinking about what's important for the person as well as to the person, and authorizing services that align with our Minnesota Medicaid waiver policy and statutes. So Denise is, over the years, she's also had numerous opportunities to work with DHS staff on policy clarification and helping our providers implement that in the best way possible for the person she's working with. She's always advocating for our folks and our people of Clay County. So thank you, Denise, for being a part of our unit and all the great work you do every day. I'm so glad you're in our unit. So congratulations.
Okay. Okay. Next up, we have Tracy Sunday and Kristen Lepard.
Good morning. So I have the privilege of thanking Tracy for her 25 years of service at Clay County. I'm not going to lie. Tracy was on vacation last week and she was out sick yesterday. So this opportunity she may not have been aware of until last night when I texted her, because I'm hoping she did not check her emails when she was on vacation last week.
Good.
So when I popped my head in her office this morning, I almost fell over when she said she was coming to board, because Tracy is not one to be in the limelight. She does not like that. She is just a hard worker, a very dedicated worker, and I appreciate the strong work ethic that that she has. She started out her career here at Social Services in child protection and had many different roles in the child protection unit. And the last 3 years, she has been one of our adult protection workers. So she went from working with little bodies to bigger bodies. She is, like I said, extremely dedicated, and I appreciate what Tracy brings to the unit. She has a wonderful sense of humor, and she exhibits sincerity and just downright compassion and kindness for the individuals that she works with. So thank you, Tracy, for everything you bring to the unit and for your 25 years of service at Social Services.
Thank you.
All right, Sandra Thorne, Social Services. Okay, sorry. Amy Edmondson, and Social Services, 25 years.
I get the honor to present Amy to everyone here. Let me grab the plaque. There you go, Amy. I'd like to extend a huge congratulations to you for your 25 years with Clay County. Amy is one of our child protection supervisors, if you are not aware of that, and been nothing short of exceptional in your role. Fun fact, she's also known as the icebreaker expert, the master of morale, the bringer of baked goods, and a potluck Picasso.
Where are those big? Amy, did you bring big goods today?
Yeah, she can't today. She earned the goods for herself.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Really, your dedication and expertise have made an enormous difference in our community for the families that we serve. Thank you so much for your quarter-century commitment to Columbia.
Sandra Thorne. There you are, my old gym buddy.
And Sandy, if you didn't notice, we snuck the whole crew in.
I did
behind your
notice
back.
that.
Yes, perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Sandy, you've been with Clay County for 40 years, which is an incredible achievement. If anyone's not aware of Sandy, she's our child support fraud and collections supervisor. She may also hold the potluck Picasso title for fourth floor, but maybe recipe rock star is more.
Okay.
There we go. Your dedication, your kindness, and your leadership have been shining example for all of us. You really supported your team and made such a huge difference in so many lives within our community. It's pretty inspiring to see such passion and positivity right across the hall from my door every single day, and I really appreciate it. On behalf of everybody here, your whole unit, thank you for your decades of hard work. Little do Amy and Sandy know, I had also reached out to their staff for some comments, which I have written down. I wasn't going to read them all, but I am going to provide that to both of you. I don't want you to cry in front of them. So I'll save that.
As soon as they all walked in.
Yes, I'll save that for later, but thank you so much, Sandy.
Thank you.
Joe, you're up, and Ross Reno.
Yes, good morning. Actually, Brian Friedrich is Ross's supervisor, but he is gone today, so I'll step in. But short story, took my first job as a maintenance guy when I was 16 in the summertime, and it happened that Ross was my supervisor guy. I was just a young kid, and he was there working at a company full-time, and he looked after me. So fast forward 12 years, and I walk into Clay County, and here he is again. But no, seriously, he has been, Ross has been here 20 years, and he's worked the night shift till 1 a.m. every day. He's a guy that doesn't miss work ever. You have to remind him to take vacation, and he's very dedicated to that. So I see the financial units here. He has cleaned their unit for many years, and Sandy can attest that he is, she always requests that when she moves, he moves with them. But anyways, I appreciate Ross. He's the last guy to leave the building at the Family Service Center, shuts the lights off, and I appreciate what he does. And he's another guy that he doesn't like the spotlight, and plus he worked till 1 a.m. So we're gonna give him sleep in it. So thank you to Ross. So.
I just did a quick check on my Arkansas math here. 125 years of experience is what we're recognizing this morning. And one of the things all of the commission is aware of this, but having spent 40 years in government service myself before I got elected to position, I know how important employees are. I know how important having staff is. It's the most important part of what we do. Sometimes us electeds need to be reminded of that, but what our staff does is what defines how the public views our county. And this is an example of why we have such support within the community. So I'm going to thank everybody that was here this morning, and particularly the supervisors. We have good supervision here, and that allows our employees to operate at full capacity and feel like they're part of the program, which without realizing they are the program. That's the reason we function. So thanks to all of you that are here this morning. What? You guys don't want to talk about budgets and now they're going to start running. Next on the agenda is citizens be heard. Do we have any citizens here that want to speak to any item that's, or issue that's not on the agenda? Have we got anybody online, Steve?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Next is approval of payment of bills and vouchers.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Next, we have approval of minutes from July 23rd, 2024.
I move to approve the minutes for July 23rd.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second, any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, next on the agenda is request for approval to replace the Assistant Jail Administrator position due to retirement. We have Sheriff Empting with us.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thanks for having me here this morning. I am here to request to fill our Assistant Jail Administrator position. Assistant Jail Administrator Katie Johnson has decided to retire after 27 years of dedicated service to Clay County. We wish her the very best in her retirement. She was an outstanding employee for us, and we hope she has a very long and joyful retirement. With that, we are looking to fill her position so we can get somebody in there to assist Carrie with the duties over at the jail. This would be somebody that would go on the grade at grade 20, and we'd be looking at bringing a newer employee in at a lower rate for a little bit of a cost savings as well. I would also request a backfill for a potential sergeant or corporal that would take this position, and then also a backfill for a correctional officer that would have to be hired once we fill the sergeant or corporal position. So it's kind of that domino effect that would happen.
Any questions for the sheriff?
Move approval of the request.
Second the motion?
And that will include the backfill throughout the ranks. Okay, any discussion? Yep.
She's not here today, but I just, what you said was right on, and her in that role and her positive attitude. I mean, that attitude that she had towards everything was just remarkable. And I think I wish everybody could learn from that a little bit, but she's always upbeat and intelligent, and I just wanted her to hear that message of thank you, and I'm sure she's going to carry that smile into her retirement too.
I've seen her a couple times, and she still has a smile. Still upbeat, still positive, absolutely, yep.
But anyway, if you can relay to her on behalf of us the thank you for not only her service, but that attitude she brought towards being a county employee.
I can do that.
I'd like to give an amen to that too. She's got a great attitude, valuable employee. You hate to lose him, but as usual, this is one of those deals where you're going to have two people that move up in their careers, and they've had a good example to model their performance on. So it's a plus.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Katie, particularly as we were building the new correctional facility and had our building committees and mental health subcommittee. Katie was really instrumental in talking about taking care of the whole person, the people that would be in that facility, and really was instrumental in providing such a face to them and a face of humanity, really, in some really challenging circumstances. And I really think Katie and the team over there can really be thanked for the work that went into making sure this was not a jail, it was a correctional facility. So thanks again to her for that, and she'll definitely be missed.
She will, for sure. Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, we have motion and second on the floor. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Extension Service. Cecilia Amadou on budget, or Extension Service with their budget request.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here. Cecilia Amadou. I serve as a Regional Director with the University of Minnesota Extension. And today we would like to talk about the budget, but also the new contract that you have made. Some of you have heard a little bit about, but this year the contract changed a little bit in pricing. So I want to bring that in front of you to discuss what's included in the contract for this year. So as you heard from AMC, and we had an honor of having Commissioner Mojo serve in the subcommittee of that team that negotiated a contract that will be coming in front of you. The contract is good for the next 3 years, from 2025 on to the end of 2027. And that was approved unanimously by the AMC and the subcommittee. And then within that contract, currently, the youth development educator positions are 80,000, and that is moving to 100,000 per FTE. In Clay County, we have 2 FTE youth development educators, and then we have 0.8 agriculture position, and that position we're hoping to move to 0.85 due to the work that's happening and the capacity and the need for jail services in the community. So with that, we are hoping to get a resolution passed to approve that contract along with the budget that is in front of you for that contract.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you. I just want to highlight on Exhibit A, Table A, in regards to the package price, if you will, for each, or for the positions. It talks about the funds being identified for those positions. And I want folks to know this is a package price. It includes the salary, fringe, travel, and any other expenses that we talk about later on in the contract. As highlighted, I worked with a lot of rural counties throughout the state, and that was really a sticking point of concern based on how much that position would be. People are saying, well, $100,000, that's a lot more than X amount of whatever position within their counties. But certainly the university hears those concerns, but wanted to highlight that includes the travel and fringe on all of those positions.
Wouldn't that be the same as the 2024 contract that included everything? The same?
Yes.
Yeah, but I think when people look at the position and see the price, it's easy to overlook.
Yeah.
You've negotiated a few more of these contracts than some people throughout the state, Kevin.
Well, anytime that I see a 22% increase from one year to the next, it is a little concerning about where the prices are going. And we, as representatives of our taxpayers, that's always of concern, but you have to weigh that to what the benefits are as well. So it certainly is a large increase. So.
We are conducting a, what is it called? Sorry, my
Wage
word.
study?
Yeah, wage study this fall. And so all educators did receive an increase that counties did not pay for last winter. And then they will be receiving some level of an increase coming this fall as well. So staff are going to be getting an increase as part of a retention plan. But also, as you know, benefit and cost of living is also increasing across the country. And so that's how we're accommodating for that. So I can't tell exactly how much people are going to be getting because of the skill or mastery that people bring into their positions, and how long they've been in their positions will determine how much of that increase they get.
Yeah, I think that's all very important, as well as, I think as we, a year ago, I guess it was, realigned these positions. I think the effectiveness of their work is at a really high level right now.
I would like to point out to thanking the Glendon Farms Foundation for sponsoring us year after year. So we do receive funding from them, $10,000 every year that will offset this cost as well.
Commissioner Mojo.
All right, another point of discussion is oftentimes we see when Extension held the line after COVID, they really understood that there were some unknown challenges throughout the state and didn't want to have the burden of an increase on communities that were really challenged with how to mitigate issues after COVID. And sometimes, while I appreciate that as chair of that committee, I think that was really something that we saw from Extension as something that was really good. But as we've seen in wage markets and hiring markets, that proposes a challenge and sometimes bites you at the end. And part of this increase is to deal with those staffing challenges and concerns. A lot of the requirements that Extension requires is the same as a contracted teacher that has 3 months off in the summer. And I recall vividly Commissioner Swanson from Roseau talking about the challenge to get employees, and having served on a lot of the interviews and opening processes throughout this area in our county, I can attest to that. That's been really challenging to fill positions for a wage that's less than someone that doesn't work 12 months out of the year. So that's the committee hat, that's the chair of Extension statewide hat. Certainly on this board, I hear the concerns, and we are facing those uncertainties post-COVID, as are everyone. So Commissioner Campbell's comments are very true, and I get that. The part I maybe have a little bit of a heartburn over isn't necessarily on the MOU. While I think the increase is concerning, is the addition of the 5% more on the 0.8. It really took this board a lot of deliberation and years to get us to the full-time equivalents that we were at. I'm not sure in a year where the MOU is coming and there's an increase there that, I think the dual ask is challenging and tricky. While I feel that position is doing fantastic things in the community, it has nothing to do with that. It's where do we find a compromise? And maybe for me, that might be it.
Any other comments? Cecilia, any other information for us?
I think that's all you need to know, other than I'm not sure if the board will move to approve the contract or will wait until you see the full county budget. But I was hoping to get a motion on the contract.
I think that's going to have to wait until we do the budget. If we don't approve the funding, we can't approve the contract.
Yeah.
Steve, is that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Cecilia and I have had a number of different conversations since this has come up. We didn't, on the packet today, it was just an informational presentation. We didn't necessarily, there's information in the chart that Commissioner Mojo highlighted, but we didn't have the actual MOA as a part of the discussion today.
Commissioner Mojo.
Just want to highlight, we do have an Extension board member present today. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything.
You just give us your name before you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Janice Tweet. I'm a newer addition to the Extension Advisory Council, but I just wanted to be here this morning to support Cecilia. In the few months I've been with the board, just have been impressed by the dedication and work that the Extension is doing in our community, and have seen lots of great things coming out. So just wanted to be here as a source of support this morning.
Thank you. Anything additional?
You also have an email sitting in your inbox from one of the committee member, Sandy Knudsen, just speaking to the positions and how available it is to the youth development educators in the county, and also the master gardener positions, support that you're getting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, we have a request approval of out-of-state travel, public health emergency preparedness coordinator. And
Thank you,
Steve
Mr.
Larson.
Chair. We are maybe doing a little backwards request, doing some cleanup work here this morning. County policy requires that this county board approves any out-of-state travel. I was approached during our 2-week gap by Public Health Director, Administrator Kathy McKay, about an opportunity for their emergency preparedness to attend a training in Alabama. That training's taking place as we speak. And so I did reach out to our board chair, also our county attorney, and did provide approval for our emergency preparedness person to participate. Having said that, I did want to make an awareness before the board. Again, it's not our normal protocol, obviously, to go against county policy. In this situation, the course fees, the flights, transportation, the meals and lodging were all covered for this FEMA training. And so that I'd yield for any questions.
I just want to concur with the presentation that Steve is given. He did contact me. This was something that we run by Mr. Melton, the county attorney, and I think it was a good use of time. There wasn't any expenditure of funds on this since the entire cost of the training was covered. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, thanks, Steve.
Could I get a motion, Mr. Chair?
Oh, yeah, okay. Motion to approve the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coordinators out-of-state travel for FEMA training in Anniston, Alabama. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
No second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign?
Thank you.
Okay, now, thank you, Steve.
Mr. Chair, in regards to this last item that just came up, that's something we might want to review our future policies on in terms of the out-of-state travel when it's fully funded by an outside entity that's covering those costs. I think the only thing that really comes up other than that is the supervisor's approval of it, because it could be taking away from something else. But that's one of those instances where I don't know that every one of those would need to come before this board when it's, because I think the concern there, some of the concern would be the cost and the timing of it. And if the cost is net neutral to the county, I just think it might be something for us to consider in the future.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Steve, maybe we want to make an adjustment to the policy on that, and I don't take it to pick, or?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that's certainly something we can work with Darren and bring that to pick and then to the board.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. All right, next up, budget presentation, Kathy McKay, Public Health. Morning, Kathy.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, and Carmen is with me as well, who inputted all of our information into this budget. Let's see, so you had the budget packet. I'm sure you all reviewed all those numbers that are there last night, so I will go through. There's a 2024 expense to revenue comparison on one of the forms. So it just gives all of our revenue sources. That's a good overview of what we have for revenues, and then our general expenditures for our entire budget. So I can start going through that, and Carmen can interject when there's questions about that. For the revenue sources, so of course, a lot of our funding comes from grants. We have non-governmental grants. We also have federal and state grants. So we get a large number of grants through MDH, DHS, the federal government, and then some non-government grants in our health promotion area. So that stays pretty consistent. Our insurance revenue, we bill for whatever services we can. So whether it's family home visiting services or our adult health programs, anytime we can access insurance revenue, that's definitely our go-to. And we have a biller that works pretty diligently in the auditor's department to ensure that we can bill for all of the insurance revenue that is potential. We have license fees. License fees, an example, is all of our food pool and lodging fees that we obtain for our services, and that's been pretty consistent. Client fees, so we do have some client fees that we receive, which remains pretty consistent as well. We have a number of contracts for revenue sources, so we contract with, for example, like daycares. We have a nurse that provides the overview for the daycares in Clay County, and school contracts, et cetera. We have a number of contracts that we receive revenue for services. We didn't have anything in miscellaneous. We put them all in the other categories. County allocation, as you can see, request from our previous allocation, and then our request for 2025. And then the ambulance, as the allocation for the ambulance still remains in our budget, although it's provided by the county. So the ambulance request, you can see for 25, it went up to 35,000. I think in years past it was 13,000 maybe. So it was quite a, they've gradually increased their ask for that county allocation. And typically, I'm not sure if they come to the board and make that request.
They generally have not.
Okay. Any questions on the revenue side? And then we can go down to the expenditures. So payroll, obviously, there's an increase with the staff for payroll expenses, which is expected. And again, many of our staff are covered throughout our department with some grant revenue and other sources. Communication expenses is about the same. Our subscriptions and dues, stop me if you have questions about that. Marketing and advertising, we had reduced that expense, and that remains consistent. The audit expense. Other professional services is our association fees, our documentation system, some of our contracts with our, we have a non-employee that we contract with for some work in our community as well. Our medical consultant, that is for both public health and our detox. So both areas require the medical consultant, and we've had the same physician that is our medical provider for both, signing all of our protocols, approving those types of medical things. Repair and maintenance is just, as it states, pretty consistent. Training and travel expenses, and that's been a little bit of an increase. Our rent costs, of course, we expect a reduction in 2025 because our detox will be hopefully in our new building, so we won't have that rent cost there. Insurance, workers' comp, unemployment, similar. Client care, that's specifically for detox, so with an increase in the number of clients, we anticipate, since we're doubling beds, that client care expense will be up. Supplies and equipment, that's for overall, both detox and public health. Immunizations, you'll see an increase in that. In the past, we had free COVID vaccine. There's no free COVID vaccine anymore, so our county was able to receive those vaccines and distribute those, but now we will be charged for COVID vaccines that we would give in the fall with our flu vaccine. We have some grant funds that cover an individual who would be distributing that vaccine as long as it's COVID and flu together. We have some coverage for the time, but the vaccine is very costly. So you can see the increase. So this board can give us weigh in on what you want us to do with providing COVID vaccine this fall. and our flu vaccine as well. Other immunizations that we provide are the childhood immunizations, adult immunizations, and those remain the same. Our CHB expenses, you can see that's our Community Health Board, the 4 counties, and we have some expenses. We have revenue to cover some of that as well. The ambulance appropriations are there. Building expenses, that's strictly with the detox building expense. And then other grants and subsidies, that's an expense. We get all of the grants in as revenue, and then Clay County is the fiscal manager for the 4 counties. So those are distributed out to those counties. So we take in all the funds, but then each county, we have formulas to distribute that funds to the other counties. So that's mostly what that is. So you can see our bottom line request for 25 is that 64,000. We have some new requests. I believe you have that in your packet as well. New request for 25. We have an open sanitarian position. We have an open environmental health technician position, a WIC dietitian position, an open admin, a shared position. We had an open administration position with detox and with public health, but now we have an open one just for public health. And so our total there is our new requests, 1,115 is listed below on there. So our total requests with the new request for 25 are the 164,118.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Campbell.
Kathy, so the payroll expenses, does that include the detox employees? So when I look at the 24 to 23 comparison, that was the big jump there, and I'm assuming that it was during 2024 that we planned on a lot of the new hires.
Correct.
How is that looking in terms of what did we plan for in 2024? How soon did we anticipate hiring all those new employees, and when did we actually hire them?
That's a good commissioner, or a good question, Commissioner and Mr. Chair. We had a graduated hiring process. So we started the process in the beginning of this.
Kathy, can you move your mic a little bit closer
sorry.
to you?
We started that hiring process at the beginning of this year as we were able to, the hiring, as you've heard many times, for the nurses is really competitive. So that was a critical piece. We still are short a supervisor and a lead RN, but we started hiring those in 2024. And as they came through, so that's this year, so we started in January and graduated the hiring process to ensure that we would have the correct number of staff for the 32-bed and our licensing. We've been hiring variable hour, which is helpful. Some of those individuals can move to full-time and would be interested once we get to the new building. But we wanted to get all of those individuals on board so we could gradually move them up. So we're still hiring. The Indeed process is what we've used. That's a hiring tool, and Troy's been managing that himself. So any of those hires that we're getting is coming through Indeed, which has been a good recruitment.
I guess what I'm looking for is what did we plan on spending in 2024 for new hires, and what have we actually spent for new hires in 2024? And you might not have that answer readily available today, but again, I'm kind of looking at wishful thinking that maybe we might have some leftover 2024 money that we can be taking a look at when we're doing our levy projections or levies for 2025.
So our totals for our transition plan was $1,534,712 for all of the hires.
For 2024?
for 2025, I'm sorry. And so those would be all of our new hires that we need to fill that, the detox, the new facility. And then, we also have an expected increase in our revenue, which we actually,
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
yes, we actually put that in our budget. Withdrawal management, just to explain those two, we have a detox license and we have a withdrawal management license. The withdrawal management license allows us to bill, and we get better revenue than our detox, only for Minnesota clients. So it doesn't cover any of those clients that come from North Dakota or any other state. North Dakota, however, through Southeast Human Services Center, we have a contract with them, and they pay for any of the clients that come over from the North Dakota side. So that's a very good, we have a very good relationship with them. And they send those clients over that are requiring a higher level of care, which is because we have nurses and our medical provider. So we have the increased revenue from withdrawal management.
And I get that, and I know we projected, I don't know how much new revenue we projected in 2024 because we were uncertain of when we'd be open in 2024. We're anticipating that this is going to be fully operational in 2025, so therefore we need to be fully staffed, but we're also going to be able to depend then on the new revenue in 2025. I don't know how much new revenue we anticipated in 2024. I'm assuming there was a little bit.
Can I get exactly what you want so that I can
Sure,
give it to
yeah.
you?
So
I can give it to Kathy?
Yeah, so-
and she
so,
can get
yeah,
back
and
to
I-
the
and again,
board,
I don't-
because My mouse, for whatever reason.
I wasn't expecting you to be able to provide the answers today,
Yep.
but.
So you're looking for
So when-
just
when-
salaries and,
Yeah,
or
so,
just
so,
the
so.
whole thing?
When we were going through the budget process in late 2023 for 2024,
Yep.
Troy and I don't know who else worked on it, but you established what you thought you would be needing in new hire dollars for 2024 in preparation of when this building was open. So there was a number that was anticipated that would be spent. My question is, what was that number and how much of it was actually spent?
Yep.
And then the same applies on, Kathy, as you just talked about, on the revenue side. Obviously, when we're open and you have 32 new beds, we anticipated some new revenue coming in, and what did we anticipate? And obviously, I don't know that we could be receiving a lot of new revenue yet because we're not open.
Correct.
You know, but again, so the same would apply on the revenue side, just for comparison purposes.
Yep.
And, you know, when we start talking about fine tuning these things before September, whatever that date in September, when we set the preliminary levy, those are questions I want answers to. So,
Yeah, I agree. I think that net number is very important to know if there was excess or not.
right,
Do you want the variance in 24 is what you're asking for?
yeah, so, yeah.
Not really 25, you want it.
No, I mean,
24. Okay, yep.
we're assuming your 2025 budget is gonna include what you anticipate spending in 2025.
Correct.
I am talking about what was 2024.
And some of that would be projection then as well, being that we're through,
Well, yeah, I mean, you got
Cut through
4 months left,
Months
but,
left.
yeah.
but, yeah.
Just the
For
new
example,
hire
if
piece of
they
it.
anticipated $2 million, I'm just using a number off the top, if they anticipate using $2 million in new hire money in 2024, are you going to reach 2 million or are you going to be at 1.5?
Yep,
That's what I'm looking for.
yep, got it. I'll get it to you.
And Mr. Chair and Commissioner Campbell, we do have revenue, I just correct what I stated. We have withdrawal management revenue now. So we are billing
Yes.
for that, for the clients that we're serving in Minnesota. And we're also, of course, getting the revenue for the clients in North Dakota. So I wanted to make sure you understood, we are billing for those.
Yeah, I fully get that, but as we go into a 32-bed facility, that revenue is going to be bigger, greater,
Correct.
because we're going to, yeah.
One more question.
Commissioner Krabanoff.
So, just curious, so are we at full capacity right now? I mean, is every bed filled on the 16?
Well, it goes up and down.
Okay, but pretty much, Norm.
We take all the clients that we can potentially serve that are referred to us.
Okay.
There are clients that go to the Fargo detox that are a lower level, but we take every client that we can.
So in that transition to the new facility, how do you, I'm just not too deep in the weeds here, just how do you anticipate that transition of how that goes from 16 to 32 to get to that full capacity at the new facility?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Krabanoff, we of course are working with Southeast, who is understanding that we'll be at 32, and there's a lot of clients that they can't send to us because we only have 16 beds right now. So they
there's sort of a
anticipate.
waiting list, if you will.
Yeah, and we don't keep track of the waiting list. We also don't keep track, nor does our law enforcement officials keep track of who we couldn't get in. I mean, we've tried to get those numbers about who was not served, and that should have been served by us. So there are clients that can't get in because we're full. But we plan to transition. We expect that once all of the medical facilities know our opening date and our Southeast group, as well as other counties, we should get a fair number of people coming through. We know there's a need out there, and there's people that are waiting for a bed.
Yeah.
There will be an additional function that we serve as a detox facility that we can bill for and that we can't at this point.
That's correct.
So there will be capacity for clients we currently can't. Are we serving them? We simply can't recover the cost of it.
Well, we're serving clients. There are, we also serve some clients that are on a hold, a court order hold, because they're waiting for a bed that isn't available. And I think you've heard that story before. There's just beds that aren't available for many of these clients. So there are clients that are sitting in our detox sometimes 30 days, waiting to get into a treatment facility, not safe to be sending home. And so we're working with those clients as well. So they might take up a bed, for a month or more, which is a challenge, but we're the only, we're the safety net for them. Otherwise, you send them out and they may not get to a treatment. So there's issues with getting to treatment beds. There just is.
And I can, personal knowledge, law enforcement has a lot of people that they go to very undesirable alternatives because there is no bed available. But in this case, now there will be a bed available.
Yes, for sure.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I think it's also important just to note in the planning by Public Health and the Building Committee, the facility is separated into different areas. So those people who are staying for longer periods of time are going to be in a different area than maybe the person that just came in today. They also have an outside area for those people to utilize, and so along with potential visitation and things like that. So in the planning for this facility and dealing with the different groups of people that they serve, there was a great deal of thought that went into that. So.
Any other questions for?
I just want to, you'd raised the question about COVID vaccines. I'd like to know, and again, I don't need it right today, but what are we currently, we're not providing those for free anymore, are we? Or are we? Are we even providing them?
They're free because we were getting vaccine for free. Once we have to purchase them, we'll try to bill their insurances if we can.
Okay.
So our biller will try to bill, just like we do with the flu shot, we bill insurances when we can, and if we can get the revenue for that, but.
And how about the COVID test kits? I know those we've been distributing for free, right? Are we still getting those for free?
Correct. We just got another shipment in of COVID test kits. We went through the current ones we have. Unfortunately, the test kits they sent us are only good for a month. So we just received test kits last week, and they're only good through September. So we'll continue to order those. Hopefully they'll have ones that have a longer shelf life. They must be trying to use up the ones that they have that are good for a month. So we have had people stop by. We've given them to other departments. So trying to get those out regularly.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, one of the things that we're going to be doing as part of the ARPA committee, we're going to be meeting in early September. 2024 is the end of where we have to have our spending allocated. And so one of the things that we may be able to do in this circumstance would be is if there are additional ARPA funds, as you've done with public safety funds, we could maybe look into offsetting some of that. Because we have until 26 to spend the funds, we have to allocate them by the end of December.
Good.
Any other questions for Kathy? No, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
At this point, I'm going to take a break for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chair, if I could just briefly, just want to thank Carmen. Carmen is moving on or has moved on to a new job, but she's been nice enough to stay with us in public health through the budgeting process, and so she's here this morning and doing her job after her other job to make sure that we get through this cycle. So I want to thank you for that.
Well,
Thank you.
no, thank you, and, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. Back in session. Next up are committee reports, and we're going to start with Commissioner Mojo.
All right, 2 weeks. Right? Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I'm trying to pull up my agendas. I attended the Prairie Lakes meeting. That was one that was on site in Polk County, so there was a pretty good tour afterwards. So I'll let Commissioner Campbell talk about the tour specifically. He talked about some trash sorting needs and why it might make sense to do that now, and then maybe ask for, I don't know if it's called a variance then, if that would qualify for a 3-year sort. So that there was a pretty substantial conversation at that. I attended the Diversion Authority Land Management Committee meeting. They talked about the excess lands recommendations in the city of Horace, which would require a variance to the excess lands. Certainly seemed to make sense because the parcels in question really are outside of the standard property. That elevator site is such a different and unique property. That recommendation went to the Diversion Authority after that. I attended virtually the SWAC committee meeting on that Thursday. Sorry, the agenda's pulling up. We talked about water testing and had landfill and solid waste update, the PERM update from Commissioner Campbell. That water testing at the landfill was a highlight from Stantec, I believe. I called in late to that part of it as I was having a conversation with Commissioner Gross. The following week, Administrator Larson and I had a roundtable discussion with individuals from the Isaiah, Minnesota project. Basically had some questions in regards to Clay County projects and priorities that in areas in which they'd highlighted more of a rural representation of citizenship that just really wanted to talk some more about what Clay County is doing in regards to decarbonization and recycling and water quality initiatives. So I gave them a pretty good highlight of all the committees in which we serve on. That was helpful in that. The MCC JPA meeting, we had project updates and land agent reports. We took action on a driveway approach agreement and a farming access agreement, and then there was an amendment to some language on a settlement that didn't really change the substance of the agreement, just was a date issue. And then there was a small incidental acquisition expense that was approved, and then a closed session regarding a purchase of property agreement or property interest. And then after we came out, we did vote on action on that purchase agreement. And a number of MetroCog committee meetings over the last couple of weeks. That Friday, or was it Monday? We had the MetroCog full board meeting. It's been tricky at best to get a quorum, as I alluded to in reports earlier this month. We did take action on some amendments and then some projects moving forward. We had the MetroCog Executive Committee meeting yesterday. We had a approval of a attorney contract, if you will. That's always been such a minor component of the budget, but wanted to make sure we had something official. And then yesterday I attended the detox withdrawal management construction committee meeting. The biggest item of note, of disappointing note, if you will, there's been a delay in shipment on the generator, certainly because of the purpose of the facility. That's something that's necessary. That ship date has been moved to the last week of August, first week of September. The anticipated arrival isn't for a month, and then anticipating final electrical work to be done the middle of October. If Commissioner Campbell and I could have kept a tally on the amount of days between all of these construction projects that we've talked about generators and generators being an issue, it would be substantial. Disappointing maybe at best to say that, but everything else up until the rain this week, things look pretty good. If you've driven by there, it's making pretty good headway. We talked about the brick work and the stone veneer that's going on right now, and then the door hardwares. I think there was an issue in the scanners. They were gonna have a meeting afterwards on that. And then Steve highlighted that, as we did with the law enforcement center correctional facility, we had a tour, if you will, with the Moorhead Business Association members that wanted to potentially walk through that. Certainly think that would be important. I know last time it was something that we advertised. And then in the construction meeting for the DMV, certainly following along that same timeline, I'm looking forward to the coordination that will take for move-in the first week of October. We talked about bollards and if we necessarily needed to have yellow bollards every 10 feet throughout the entire perimeter almost. So we did minimize a few of those. There's a little bit of savings there. There were some pending proposals, ductwork and perimeter trim components. We did talk about signing and the interior signage. And because there's a unit out of Texas that will do the transition, they will need to have speaker wire. So we did identify making sure that speaker wire is put in before the close up of the facility. This morning I attended the Chamber of Public Policy, Moorhead, Dilworth, Clay County Business Roundtable. We had highlights from the legislative session, updates from Clay County, which I gave, and the City of Moorhead and City of Dilworth. I'm excited. I had to leave that early to get here, so I'm excited to hear some of the highlights and successes and concerns that business owners are seeing on this side of the river. Wanted to make sure that you all get those highlights as well, as you know, it's certainly such a good tool for us as we move forward. I think that concludes my reports.
Thank you. Commissioner Campbell?
Thank you. On the July 24th, I also attended the Prairie Lakes meeting, which Commissioner Mosher reported on. I'm going to add just a couple things. The monthly expenditures, that's all kind of falling in line. plant manager's report was good. We did meet at the Polk County Transfer Station in Crookston, and the reason we went there is they have a ash plant there. So we've toured, in the past, we've toured the Pope Douglas, and now the Polk County plants for utilizing ash. Both of them had a lot of ash that was buried in the ground, and so they're going back in there, taking that back out and cleaning it and creating the ash to use in highways. And so it's a really good opportunity, and the one that we saw in Pope Douglas, it was more like a MRF. It's kind of like what you see at Prairie Lakes, where they go have all these conveyors and they take everything and clean stuff out, the metals and all of those other things. And in this particular one, it's one machine that sits outside. They take all of the old ash out and they run it through this thing that's got a tumbler. It takes everything out, all the metals and everything out, and it goes right to a clean pile. And then the stuff with the metals goes back in, and that going to stay in the ash landfill. Because there's really no value in those metals. There's just no market for it at all. So and anyway, so we approved Stantec to do a design for a pilot project for a road, and it's probably going to be I believe it's going to be a road in Ottertail County. And that they came in with an estimate of $36,000 to do that pilot design. Commissioner Mojo talked about our discussion about an MPCA waste composition study. And if you recall, we did that at the old transfer station where we had people come in and you'd sort every bit of garbage out of it, and there wasn't a lot of interest in wanting to do that. I think Frank did it once and he said never again. So it's a dirty job, but somebody has to do it. But anyway, so MPCA has asked Prairie Lakes if they would be willing to do one of those on behalf of the waste energy facilities. And Prairie Lakes has been doing it once every 5 years anyway. And so we told them that we would be glad to do it as long as that covers the 5 years that we would do. So that part looks like it's going to go on. We've had some discussions regarding PFAS testings of the air emissions out of the plant, and I think that's scheduled to be done. The next stack testing that they do, I believe, is when that's going to be done. On the 24th, I also attended the diversion land management meeting, and there was some discussions there regarding I think there were basically excess lands issues, a bunch of excess lands issues, and they were all in the Horace area. And so there was an agreement, or we made a recommendation to the full Diversion Authority Board to break out those parcels to the landowners who were adjacent to them, following the excess lands policy. And there was one variance acceptance that we approved, or recommended for approval as well. Thursday, the 25th, we had the Solid Waste Advisory Committee meeting. Commissioner Mojo did talk about that, and we did get a report from Stantec on the well testings at the landfill. All of them were within the parameters. One had an increase in a certain type of, I can't remember, it's a scientific technical term, a slight increase, but it still fell far below MPCA's standards, so it was not of real concern. We heard from Corey regarding, he had visited with some company called Novastus, and they supposedly have a mechanism that takes and dries out all the waste and municipal solid waste, and goes through a process and it dries it all out, and it really minimizes the amount of that goes into the landfill. This company would like to come up here and install it up here and run it for at the time, they said a 1-year deal, at which time then we would be on the hook to buy it. And I think the going price, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was $2 million. And so, and there was a lot of questions. I mean, and we asked, well, where have we gotten those things? And it sounds like we'd be the first to even implement it. So I think we might have, so we talked about it and suggested that maybe if Corey is that interested in it, that maybe he could travel there and go see it in operation. And I think he might be willing to do that, but he'll come before this board if he decides to do that. The rest of that meeting, I think Commissioner Mosher reported on. Also on the 25th, then we did have the Diversion Authority Board of Authority meeting. And again, we approved a lot of the things that land management had talked about. And we did have a considerable amount of discussion regarding the co-executive director update and the timeline. And we did approve what the co-executive director position looks like in terms of the job description, future job description, as it's changed from what it was when we first started. And the timeline, and I think ultimately the timeline would be that we'd be looking at the potential for hiring somebody in December to possibly January timeframe. And we had several other reports from our engineers and an Army Corps update as well, but everything is really moving along quite well. Then on the 29th, I attended the West Central Regional Water District meeting in Halstead. And we spent a lot of time, again, going over the background because we had some of our new members present then, and there was some history done on that. I think, and each entity kind of approved who everybody was. And I think on a temporary basis, I think they're looking at maybe having Lucas from Norman County will maybe serve as acting chair for a while on that project. And we got funding updates. It looks there's going to be a preliminary hearing with the court on September 13th. We're not sure exactly if that's going to be held here in the Clay County Courthouse, or I think actually that one will be, but I think the public hearing, that the first required public hearing, they were hoping they could have it in Halstead, but that's obviously that's going to be up to the judge. And I told him, I said, don't be surprised if the judge just doesn't want to hold it here with all of the availabilities of technology and security that are available here. So, and that also, I think that timeline is yet to happen this fall sometime. And once again, I want to thank Don Mordadam for coming in. He was present via Zoom or whatever, but it was good to have him available to hear about the first meeting. Then on the 31st, Steve and I went to Becker County at an invitation regarding some solid waste issues, and along with Corey Bang. And there was a number of things on the agenda, and a lot of it had to do with waste hauling. And just as I anticipated, most of those issues were able to be worked out between Corey and the member from Becker County. There's some other issues that are coming up. There was some recycling things that they're looking at. They're increasing their recycling. They also want to do an addition to their current facility that would be about $1 million, and so they're looking at potential outside sources to help with that, which at this point in time, Clay County is probably not in a position to. We don't do the recycling, so that we told them that they'd have to work with, Fox Sanitation and the city of Moorhead. That's going to be up to them if they want to deal with that. So. 2 weeks. Thursday, August 1st, we had a Moorhead Clay County Joint Powers Authority special meeting. And again, those were, Commissioner Mojo did report on those, and I really don't have anything to add on that one. Also that day, I did have the opportunity to attend the Department of Transportation monthly update on the Moorhead 11th Street Underpass project. I was really glad that I went to that. I've been to a couple of them, and the room was full. And the room was full, and what most of them were, they were business owners from First Avenue and mostly from First Avenue and Center Avenue. And you know, they had a lot of questions answered, and they have some concerns that with, you know, obviously there's going to be some real traffic barriers, significant traffic barriers for some of those businesses on Center Avenue. And, you know, when you're talking about those new businesses that are there for, and there's a new business opening in September, or having their grand opening in September. And the key thing that I got out of it actually happened after the meeting. I was outside and talking to two business owners, and they're very concerned. They're very concerned to the point where, you know, they're not sure that all businesses there are going to make it. And there was kind of a plea that what can we do to help? And you know, so I think the best thing for us to do is to really encourage our Moorhead residents and Clay County residents to really try to take that step to go out of their way, the inconvenience of but still to visit those businesses and provide them with some customers. But it was kind of an eye opener, and the thing of it is that's going to be a significant period of time that road's going to be shut down. Center Avenue is going to be shut down for a long time. So, and that's going to happen in 2025, summer of 2025. Lastly, I had the two meetings yesterday. The first one with the Clay County Withdrawal Management Facility. I think Jenny reported on all those. I don't have a lot to add. I am very disappointed in the generator issue. The way that, you know, we're trying to look at, can we come up with some temporary generator system? We're checking into all that, because as I mentioned in what I was asking this morning about with our new hires for that facility, we're hiring those people with the anticipation the building's supposed to be ready. And so we could potentially have a bunch of new hires with no building.
Do they have a timeline?
Well, I mean, yeah, so the report now is that they're looking at it's already been pushed back, I think, 3 different times. And now the latest one is it's supposed to be shipped on August 30th or 31st.
Yeah, I just reported on that.
Yeah, so it's
the final, like, it would be in.
the end of September.
Yep.
Is that it would be ready.
Then the second week of October, the electrical would be.
Yeah, so, you know, so we're already behind there. That's of real concern. And then the other thing that I did want to talk about, that Joel Olson was there, and he talked about some pieces of equipment, and he wanted a lawnmower. And then he also talked about having a snowplow attachment or something, and then there was a part that another piece that would be shared with Corey from the transfer station. And so what we did, you know, because our contingency is in really good shape right now on that project, it's looking like we're going to have a decent amount of money left in that contingency, unless we have to pay thousands of dollars shipping to get that generator here. So the recommendation is going to be, and Joel will bring it. So he had $15,000 in his new request for budget for a new mower. And so we're recommending that it takes it out of his budget and puts it into that project cost. So that'll come off of a levy and into the project cost. And so that Joel will be bringing that forward. And other than that, I think Jenny gave a good report, and I've been running too long here, so I'm gonna stop.
Mr. Chair, to Commissioner Campbell's point, we did just get an email from Joe in regards to, we asked him to look at it, if there's a redundancy loop out there. And Maury Public Service did confirm that there's a brand-new wire. And basically it said unless there a catastrophe hit Moorhead, there would be minimal chance that we'd lose power out there ever.
Yeah, that's, because I'd asked the question yesterday, I said, is that line looped?
Yeah.
Because if you have a looped line, even if something goes down, usually you can have a tendency to bring it in from another direction. But the fact of the matter is that, it ends up falling on DHS. Are they gonna let us open without a backup, without a generator operational?
Slim to no. Slim to no.
Yeah, so, that concludes my report.
Commissioner Kravinoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wednesday, July 24th, I had my monthly board meeting with the Historical and Cultural Society. Mostly normal business items were brought through, but we are moving on to plan for a special retreat that we're putting together, strategic planning. Our current executive officer is hoping to retire within the next year, and also we had the retirement of Mark Peel in archives has created changes within the organization too. People are stepping up and doing a great job, but we'll be having a retreat for strategic planning of what a new executive officer may look like, as well as are we being the most efficient with the positions that are in place, and then should we revamp some of that a little bit. So more to come on that. Thursday, the 25th, I had what is now a monthly meeting regarding the Family Resource Center, the core team meeting. There's a group of roughly, I'd say, showing up consistently a dozen entities that are part of this, as well as an active piece of this is Quinn with social services, representing social services. But many of the partners that I work with on my three LACs committees are part of this, and again, honing in on what a centralized hub would look like, and then the entities that go all around the needs and collaboration between many of the private partners, and again, in all areas, adults, children, addiction, just all the social type services that we do in our community. So honing in on that, and just a reminder, all the funding for this right now is coming through the grant through the Sawyer Foundation to keep moving toward planning, which will move then into a potential grant that Quinn and Megan from Creative Consulting have put together into the state of a significant amount. I think it was toward $250,000. And then also the next step of increased funding back through for an implementation phase through the Sawyer Foundation again. So the money piece is being developed while the planning is, and of what some type of executed plan may be down the road. So a lot of this will come into fruition over the next 3 months. I think the end of the Sawyer funding is at the end of October, and by then we'll know on the state as well as the next grant through the Sawyer funds in November.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Thank you. So that community resource survey is out, and it's been the source of a lot of questions that have been raised to me. In regards to the board that they're looking at forming to kind of oversee all of this stuff, where does the funding for those per diems come from?
Can't answer
Not,
that.
because I
and
mean,
hadn't-
I had seen somewhere where it was $35 an hour for 2 hours a week for several months. And so I just, that was a little bit of a red flag for me, only because I want to be careful at committing county dollars, right? I mean, that's
Right.
a question. And then two, and maybe it's an education point for me, is, you know, we have a family service center across the street, and it's a source of a lot of levy dollars to make sure that that is a one-stop shop, if you will, for folks that we're serving there, and not wanting to reduplicate services. I mean, not that I don't want to reduplicate services in different areas, it's just when it comes down to financially, I mean, that's the part I get concerned with, and I just don't know enough about it. And I know the vision for where they're talking about this area has sort of changed throughout legislative session in the last 6 months. So anything you can help us with, that would be awesome.
Yeah. The per diem piece, I have no clue.
Okay.
So that hasn't even come up. Now, that's not to say there aren't other people talking about that, but that hasn't been brought up in any discussions I've been part of. The part that I move personally cautiously through this, that this is not going to be, we talked about mobile, if you remember a couple months ago, and the ideology right now is, I think there's a certain group that have bricks and mortar in mind down the road,
Right.
but not for right now. I think it's more been addressing collaboration, all these entities, and where and how can we do something effectively as a hub,
Right.
you know, a resource center,
Right.
you know, and what that ends up looking at like at the end, it's too early to say. But certainly, of anything that would be developed, there would be a certain state, you know, investment by all the entities involved, right? And understanding, especially from the county end of it, this is for the whole county.
Right.
This isn't just for Moorhead, even though initially maybe some of it looks like it is intently in Moorhead, but we're certainly having discussions about what services are out in Holly and Barnesville, and mainly those two, and Dilworth is part of Moorhead, so.
And I think that's probably why, I'll be honest, was a little jolted, like I was unprepared to know what was going on with this, particularly when most of their correspondence issues the partners, including Clay County's logo, and says Clay County supported. And while our department's working towards that, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And when it's only specifically, seems to be only specifically being shared throughout the Moorhead partners, I see that the Moorhead School District has a big event at the Career Academy, and that is a large part of it, the survey and discussing that, and we're sharing it on Facebook, Moorhead specifically only Facebook groups. That's where, you know, there are questions about, you know, I don't see the city of Moorhead's logo on it, but it seems like we're doing a lot of the work in Moorhead only proper.
Yeah.
Mr. Campbell.
Yeah, I know there's been some discussion about, you know, and I think they're referring to it as reimagining Romkey, and there's a lot of stuff going on. I think that's the area that this is talked about doing, at least it was. But my only issue and the only caution that I put out there is when you plan these things, if the long-term goal is to then find some avenue for the building of these things, and if it does come down to bricks and mortar, of what Clay County already has on the table and future plans and future needs for. And like Commissioner Mosier said, we got a 5-story building over here already that's what that's designed for. And not only that, we're trying to even find more room to increase the capacity within that building to even handle more, based on with some of our other plans that we're doing. So I would just put caution out there in terms of the ability for the county to fund a building. Now, when it comes to, because usually then when you have a building, then you've got to have people in it. And so then that's even a long-term, potentially much more expensive deal. But if it ends up being a satellite location where some of our current people can go there to meet with individuals, that's one thing. That's something like that is doable, you know.
And just so you know, Commissioner, that's where my mind is. And the other thing, I mean, these are early steps for me. My third meeting.
Sure.
So I got a little bit of catch up here. The main person I feel I have to get in step with is Quinn.
Right.
Make sure that we're seeing the efficiency, a greater efficiency of the work we're doing, through our social services as well as our public health. But I do see the value. I see as being part of CAP LP, with homelessness. I mean, every piece of this. I don't know how it shapes itself exactly, but I see the value is in collaboration, a hub that is somewhat mobile, so that because the one thing that I struggle with for a non-satellite type place, let's put it that way, where it's one hub, one thing, it's still the same old, it's about transportation, right? I mean, if the issue is transportation and we aren't able to get people to come here or to our service center, why is it going to be any different that it be in another location, right? So I think it is, that's my view at this point. And I've already expressed, mainly to Megan, the idea of bricks and mortar is the last thing, last piece of this, and it's down the road because that's just expensive. This is about serving people. It's not about building buildings. I don't know if that helps, but I think there's, just know that's kind of where I'm at. But I have to, I feel like I need a sit-down meeting, Steve, Quinn, whomever, that we see what the values are to our social system that we have.
And maybe my questions are I think the questions here maybe allude to the fact that we should probably have a board agenda item recap of kind of what's going on, but
Yeah.
Is Clay County the fiscal host for the contract with Creating Communities? Or who's the host for that contract for the work? And that then, if you follow the trail, and part of the concerns that we have, then is there an assumption because Clay County was the fiscal or the host of that they will then be the champions of it? And not that we're not champions for the work, I'm not saying that. I just want to make sure that we're clear who it is.
Well, let me do some background on the questions you have. I'll work along with Steve and Quinn, and we'll get the answers for you.
Thank you.
And then the fiscal host, and then I don't know of too many grants where there isn't some sort of a matching amount that has to go with those grants, and who's currently what's the plan for the funds for the matching grants if that exists. And again, those are things that if Clay County is truly is at the table there and there's some anticipation of that being the case, we should be hearing about it. And I'm glad Paul, I'm glad you're serving on there, but I think it was, both Jen and I saw this for the first time here, and we just kind of had questions raised about, okay, where's it going?
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Then last night I had my Ward City Planning Commission meeting. One item I think might be of interest to the group. So it was a piece of property that may have some, two things. I'll go to the piece of property. If we're all familiar where 40th Street comes to, or 40th Avenue, excuse me, intersects with Highway 52. If you take that road, it curves, it comes to 52, and there's a triangular piece of land there with a Quonset on it. Yeah. I think we're all familiar with that. Anyway, in that triangle, there are two parcels. And there's a southern parcel that is smaller, maybe 2 acres, 2.5 acres, and that's where the shed is. But there's another piece that's roughly 3.5 acres, I think it was, that is being looked at to go from what is called now transitional, and because it's just bare land for sale. The assumption was that that would be commercial down the road. In the more comprehensive plan, there had been a recommendation that was going to turn to, let me get my note here so I'm saying this correct, MU2, so which then becomes a mixed use for neighborhood mixed use, I guess is the way I want to say it. So there was some discussion about a potential person coming in to build some apartments or townhomes or whatever to fit on this piece. Last night was more about the zoning from transition to mixed use, so that this person, if can work through a building plan that is appropriate to that spot, they can do so. There was probably a half dozen neighbors nearby that really wanted to be careful about what we're putting back there. And but main thing was about rezoning. So that rezoning did pass. One thing that I brought up to the city, and this is what we experienced 2 years ago, and some of you may be aware of it, certainly Justin with the Highway Department is very aware of it. That ditch on County Road 7, when it goes along the border of what would be the residential of Village Green, backs up, and it just has total water on it. And they take water out of Evergreen Meadows, they're pumping it in that ditch on the north side of 40th Ave, comes that corner, and it just, until it fills that ditch and then backfill, it finally gets over to Highway 52 to drain. And in the meantime, Americana Estates floods on the backside. And so anyway, that was my biggest comment about the whole thing. When the improvement comes to this area, they're going to have to figure that all out so that our county road stays in good shape and we aren't flooding on other people. So anyway, I just maybe got a little deep there, but I just want you to know if it's that property is improved, a lot of things will have to take shape. So that's my report.
Thank you. On the 23rd, I attended the first pre-construction meeting we had with Red Roof Regional Dispatch Center. Where construction is just now starting. Met with all the contractors out at the site. There was a discussion about access to the site, parking and staging in the area. It's right next to the Cass County Emergency Services Building, and what not to block, like the SWAT team. And some of the emergency fire rescue equipment that's there. So had the meeting on that, had discussion about the steps, the stages they're going to take. Is a nice Clay County connection on this. Terracon will be providing the precast portions of the facility as it's built. We're looking at October 25th, or October 2025 completion date on this, and work is underway after many, many years of working towards this. On the 24th, I attended the Diversion Authority Finance meeting. Had extended conversation about legal bills, Dorsey and Whitney, and Yeah, Onstead Twitchell. We have a lot going on right now, particularly with the appeals on some of the, with the developer, so their bills are running pretty high. Also discussed salaries. They had taken a life of their own without the board's awareness, and a salary survey is being conducted through Cass County to try and come up with realistic salary levels for some of the positions in there. And then on the 25th, I attended the Diversion Authority meeting, and Commissioner Campbell covered that well. And that completes my report. Steve, what do we got?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 24th, I participated with Lori and James with the West Central Regional Juvenile Center pre-budget meeting. This month, several of our leadership here at the county is starting the NACO High Performance Leadership training that this board has approved. And so that's one group is starting this week. And so we were doing some onboarding last week. We also had a pre-budget for the public health presentation you had this morning. On the 25th, I participated in the SWAC meeting, which has been well covered. On the 25th, also, Mark Sloan and I met with representatives from the Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development in regards to rural populations and for census, and reviewing how to make sure that we have good involvement. If you recall, our program had one of the highest participations in the state, and so they were happy to hear about the different things that Clay County did during that time. HR met with Dara Lee in regards to the HRA commissioners and Clay County Board of Commissioners meeting next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Again, Jen will be coming out for that this week. On the 31st, participated in the meeting in Becker County that Commissioner Campbell highlighted. Again, just a note this week also, if in the Fargo Forum, there was a story on the Resource Recovery Center and our mattress program. That was good to see. Also met the Resource Recovery garage door issue. We're continuing to find resolutions for the doors out there, and so we continue to move forward with that. More to come there. Met with Joe Olson that afternoon on a series of other issues. On the first, met with the citizen group that Commissioner Mojo spoke about. Appreciate their time. They first had the MCC JPA meeting, which has been well covered. On that afternoon, I also met with Darren and Anna with David Drowns and Associates at our last meeting with them. This board had requested some additional information. I hope to have that available in the closed session next Tuesday. Friday, met with Dan Molly. We discussed a series of updates on the mall construction, 11th Street underpass, budget discussions, law enforcement coverage, and we've been helping the city of Moorhead at different times, and then also the importance of meeting together this year for legislative priorities. On the 5th, I had withdrawal management meeting. Again, that's been well covered. Also, the DMV owners meeting. Just a few different items. Again, just a reminder, we do have the HRA bi-yearly meeting, 1 p.m. here in this this room with the commission. CPA, just state statute requires that by August 1st that state provides, the Department of Revenue provides that information. We did receive an additional $84,000 based on what we were projected for a total of $5,720,811. That translated into about another 0.25% off the levy. Just appreciate your guys' feedback on getting back on the rural cities. Again, as we mentioned today, we're also looking to set up a public safety meeting and also an ARPA meeting here in the coming weeks. And then also looking into September, we're looking to have that EDC meeting with this board and representatives from the EDCs, EDAs in Clay County. Just a kind of an update on the opioid funding settlements, just for the board's recognition. We did go over $1 million in settlement dollars, if you recall. part of our initial investment into the detox facility was to utilize $1 million of those settlement dollars towards that. And so all future dollars, or I guess future dollars would be at the access or the ability of this board to utilize. And the last thing that I wanted to bring forward today is, as we know, Commissioner Gross has not been here last couple of meetings. It appears that it may be a number of meetings till he's back, and he does have a number of committee assignments that warrant having one or two commissioners there. And so this morning, just throw out the possibility of the board to entertain in the short term, in the interim, while Commissioner Gross is away, that we fill some of his committee assignments that maybe already don't have an alternate or importance. I did provide a handout today. I highlighted highlighted several of the committee assignments that I thought we would maybe want to make sure that we addressed today. There are also other items on there, obviously, that if the board felt was important to address those also, that we could look at those also. So that I'd yield for any thoughts from the board.
One of the things and I discussed this with Commissioner Campbell prior to the meeting, he will be on PIC again next year, and anything we cover may indeed be covered in the following year if the need to fill the gap is extensive. I think that may be a good idea for filling the Personnel Issues Committee, is for Commissioner Campbell to be placed there. And another discussion I had, and I'll throw this out, I think as far as highway tracking goes, the commissioner who's most impacted by that would be Commissioner Mojo, and she would be a good fit in that. I have an interest in the building committee. I'll put that out. If there's any other people that are, or any other thoughts on that, certainly open to that, or on the other two positions as well. Any other comments or thoughts? Are there alternates already on any of these?
Mr. Chair, there are alternates for several of these, and so I guess I would leave that up to either you as the alternate or the main committee assignment. If you felt that there needed to be an additional commissioner, you certainly could assign those in the other areas, not highlighted in yellow, but I think that, as I mentioned, I think the ones in yellow probably would benefit us from adding someone. I think kind of the same thought process with the PIC committee, with the Audit Investment Committee chair and past chair. I think just my input would be I think that it would make sense for Commissioner Campbell to sit on that, as he'll be moving into the chair role here within a few months.
The only other ones is I'd maybe, as we turn over to the back, certainly feel like the West Central Regional Watershed District, we need to, I certainly, Commissioner Krabanoff serves on the Wild Rice Watershed as one of his committees. That one would be something where I think he could lend help. There's so much happening quickly there. And then in regards to the Substance Use Programming Committee, I don't think we have something on, but certainly think Commissioner Krabanoff would be helpful filling in that capacity.
Yeah, if I can, I agree with that. The only thing that I would say on the West Central Regional Water one, because that was done by resolution, and 2 of the 3 board members have to be elected, and so, but I really feel that, looking into next year, I still really believe that our newly elected person being up in the area where probably most of the stuff will be come the first of the year, I think that should still be, maybe his place to serve in that regard for now. But I do agree, Paul, if you'd be, but then I think we need to check with that process on,
If you can, yeah.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Mr. Marks and
Yeah, and then if Paul would be willing to do that, that'd be great, because we're in this early phase of setting this up, and it's critical that we have all three of our Clay County representatives there, so.
So,
I'd be very open to what we're talking about West Central there. Substance abuse, I feel really comfortable with it. If I come back to the front side, I know it's not highlighted, and I'm not sure if it would be there. The other one, only if there would be a meeting on one watershed, one plan,
Oh.
on the Buffalo Red.
yeah.
I'd be open for that spot.
Yeah, so I think that would work. I'm on that as well, but I think that would make sense. The other one I thought only because, what is that? Only because there's MetroCog's doing a study on it, would be the Heartland Trail, but I think we already have that covered with one of you, right?
I'm on the,
okay. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Hear me now? Sorry about that. A question though, tell me a little bit about, and I'm not necessarily speaking to myself, I'm curious what's involved with the budget, the second one you have highlighted there, budget, financial report,
Capital
five-year
Improvement
plan.
Committee.
And I've been on that. That's one I'd also like to be on. I think those,
That's kind of the long-range planning as we plan for these big projects and how we loop them into the budget so as to not have one big, large
Right.
piece on it. I'm not quite sure if you're meeting very much right now because we are in a budget cycle, but we are completing two big projects, and so.
That sounds good. And then I spoke to the Buffalo Red. I've been off and on going to the Wild Rice watershed. And again, kind of the same thing, if, that's an alternate for all of us anyway, but I'd be happy to, attend that again, and then that is another one that being open to, with our candidate, let's just say it, Ezra, coming in,
Right.
being a farmer up that way, I think it's a good fit down the road. But again, those are alternate positions anyway. I know that I'd be open for that day to make those meetings.
Yep.
another question that I have too, Steve, and it's one that I don't necessarily have the time with my other stuff to do, but, Dave, you might already be on it, but this out-of-home placement task force, how often are they meeting?
We've not been meeting that frequently.
Okay. Is that the one that's joint between Fargo and everybody?
No, that is county staff, so that's West Central, that's social services. It's funny that you say that, because I did think in the last week that we probably should have a meeting, given what's going on and how we do transitional housing things. We don't have anything on the agenda.
So are you on that now? So it's you and Frank right now?
Yeah.
But I mean, that would be another one, Paul, that with all of the committees that you've seemed to be on, that would be a logical one if it were to be held.
Yeah.
To-
So is that something we should be talking on the agenda when we meet on the 13th? Is that appropriate, or just let it evolve, or?
Well, I think in terms of today, we need to just identify whoever
Yeah.
as Francis's alternates, right? That's the cleanest way to do it.
Okay.
Maybe to do this, maybe just an action piece, and I'd be glad to make a motion to have a temporary placement for Commissioner Gross on the following committees. The Audit Investment Committee would be myself. The Budget and Finance would be myself. The Building Committee would be Commissioner Ebbinger. Highway Tracking would be Commissioner Mojo. One Watershed, One Plan for the Buffalo Red would include Commissioner Grabenhoft. The PIC Committee Personal Issues would be myself. The Substance Use Programming Committee would be Commissioner Grabenoft. And depending on what we find out through the legalities, the West Central Regional Water District would also be Commissioner Grabenoft.
And what was the steering committee?
That's
West Central.
Oh, that's all one.
the two
I'll
line
second that
difference.
motion.
It's-
Okay.
That's my motion.
And we got a second.
Second.
I already did.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, any discussion on that?
I think Frank's gonna roll his eyes if there's a Lutheran filling in for him on a couple of his things. Other than that, I'll do my best.
Well,
Well-
we wish him to get back here real soon.
Yeah.
I'm an Episcopalian, so he can roll his eyes twice. Okay,
Okay, thank you guys
well,
very
we
much.
got to vote.
That
all-
concludes
all
my
in-
report. Oh, sorry.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Just a point of reference on this too, I was going to mention, Partnership for Health has got I'm the alternate, and we've got a whole lot of stuff going on at the moment, so just be assured, I talked to Kathy this morning on some of it, and I'm staying on top of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's more legislative session, the rural counties one.
Brian, anything? All right. Okay, Jackie? Boy, well, we went over, but it's still a little early. Very good. Yeah, we're adjourned.